Threat hunting relies on teamwork, like a professional sports team playing together to win. But unlike professional sport, televised to audiences around the globe, we want to play while no one is watching.
That sort of information is not public. The reason it wouldn't be public is then the bad actors might change their tactics.
We don't want the threat actors to know that we know.
I'm Ben Walker, exploring the world of threat hunters. I travelled to the city of Lisbon in Portugal to the Logicalis SOC to meet the dedicated team working tirelessly to improve organisational security. In the last episode, we delved into threat intelligence and the public reports that get shared by global bodies to help teams like the threat hunters act faster. In this episode, we'll dive into secret threat intelligence, the kind we don't want the bad guys to know. I was eager to understand, is threat hunting intelligence always public? And if not, why do we keep it secret?
We work with obviously multiple customers and they might bring their own intel and their own user cases of what they want us to hunt for or detect. That could be private intel, what could be like HR and they want to see what's going on with an individual. It might be a threat what's being released under the critical infrastructure. That sort of information is not public.
We need to keep it protected. We need to know what are their tactics and techniques. We need to know what they are doing so that we can successfully protect our infrastructure.
And the reason it wouldn't be public is because then the bad actors might change their tactics and then that increases the threat.
We had an healthcare company. They got the information from agencies and we shared that information between ourselves.
What did that intelligence look like?
IP addresses they've seen or traffic coming from IPs. It could be IP addresses with certain ports, possible future exploit, something what's been seen going on but it's not been ranked from a CVE point of view. They've actually got a concern about something and they want reassurance.
In terms of where it comes from, within that organisation, they'll have their own teams to share with you to then go and investigate further.
Yeah, so it can be internal teams, it can be internal government departments where they have intel, they have early warning systems on critical infrastructure, but it could be as simple as the customers had a pen test and the result of that pen test has highlighted some stuff.
What role do you play in the coordination of taking this threat intelligence and actioning it?
Our services are based on fact. So that threat intel comes to us, it's a theory. What we're then doing is putting the logs behind it and delivering the facts. So then a business decision can be made. What we're doing needs to be non-intrusive, especially when you're dealing with healthcare, it can affect lives. Is anything we're doing going to have an impact? If we find anything, how will we then deal with that? Who are we collaborating with? And the most important thing is, what's the timeline?
So we need to establish the specific moments where we can patch the servers, databases, but in a way that it doesn't impact the service of the customer.
Especially when we come to things like chained windows and CAD processes, they can be very tight because they're affecting lives. It's like, well, we can patch it very quickly, but are we allowed to? They have a time window to respond to patch known vulnerabilities, but at the same point, we don't want to be trying to patch something if a piece of equipment's needed for an operation. There's a lot of collaboration with different levels to make sure we're helping the customer with their security posture.
We try to tackle the ones that can be mitigated immediately, and the ones that need to wait, they need to wait. So it needs to be done outside working hours, in a moment that the impact will be minimal to the customer.
It's no surprise that healthcare actually ranks number one in terms of the average cost of a data breach. Looking at the research, the average cost of a data breach for healthcare is $9.8 million. Now, to put this into perspective, the industry in second place is finance, and their average is only $6.1 million. So healthcare is almost double that of second place. That's how critical healthcare infrastructure is, and that's why it's such a target for hackers.
Now you look at something like healthcare, there's medical records, there's data there, and that holds a high value. There's a good incentive there to try and get a payout. If they can get hold of the data and then encrypt it, they can hold you to ransom.
Well, I would say ransomware has been evolving in such a way that you are seeing new types of ways of getting initial access to systems. So that's one of the things that you can see on statistics that is growing a lot. So the attackers choose the biggest clients or the biggest companies that have most value on their assets and most capabilities of paying for the ransom.
How important is the human element in all of this?
When you look at automation, it doesn't naturally ask questions. What we do as analysts is we will naturally ask questions to understand it ourselves. When you look at AI and computers, it doesn't do that. It looks at baselines and patterns and applies them. When we're asking questions, that also leads to communication. So it doesn't matter if it's an internal team, an external team, between internal and external, communication is a key.
Customer interaction. Without the humans, you wouldn't be able to have those conversations with customers. We're not relying on pure machines or technology. There is very much a human element to our services. And that also comes into the more proactive side of the services.
And that human element is needed for that communication because we have to work with all levels. It doesn't matter if it's a technical, a C-suite executive, or someone who's brand new to that organisation and been in the role for 2 weeks. We are there to reassure them and provide them support.
I've learned when it comes to threat hunting, it's clear that having that confidential threat intelligence on the bad actors can absolutely give the teams an advantage. But in order to implement this effectively, you really need to be able to collaborate effectively across different organizations, different stakeholders in the business. And really, this is where the human touch comes in. All of the human coordination is such an essential skill of the threat hunting team. As we approach the final episode, we'll explore how threat hunters operate globally 24/7 to protect customer data.